April is Autism Awareness Month, and we've had a couple of speakers already speaking from their own personal perspectives of their own autism journeys. Today, I've invited a longtime friend of mine, another attorney. We've had many trials against each other, including just a couple of months ago, mom versus dad for custody. Couldn't settle it and went all the way. But you learn in that kind of fire what kind of person you're dealing with. And so I've known for quite a while that our next speaker, attorney Chris Norris of the Danbury area, is not only a very talented attorney, but as he will tell you, his journey as a parent of an autistic child has really been extraordinary. And it's another extraordinary tale that we can add to other ones we've heard here at Justice Southbury of what people can do. So Chris, please welcome Chris Norris.
Thank you, folks. I understand you've heard from a couple of members on the autism spectrum already who've told their journey. I certainly couldn't tell their part of the story, but what I have is from the family side of it. From when a 2-year-old is walking down the hallway and banging his head against the wall to try to straighten himself up, and you kind of chuckle and say, what a tough little guy, and now he would pull your hand instead of point. At 2 years old, how he'd have a word, but then he wouldn't have a word. And what you learn nowadays that they didn't have a lot of information on is those are all classic signs of autism and being on the autism spectrum. But what I mean by the autism spectrum is there are so many different variations that happen with the neurological diversity that happens in these individuals. You can see one, hear one, get their story, and many pieces will come in the same places, but then they'll travel their own paths. Our paths with our son, Christopher. When Christopher was about to get diagnosed, well, I should say he was at his pediatrician's office, and his doctor said, I think you should get him evaluated for autism and call birth to 3. We had never heard the word. This is 2004. So we called up and we were trying to get in, and the birth to 3, I don't know if anybody realizes that the state is required to give special needs children some care and education right from birth to their age 3, and then the school district's required to take over in their early intervention centers for special needs children, usually a preschool that has half typical children, half special needs. So these folks came out, they met Christopher, and they said, well, we're not qualified to diagnose autism, but we should start giving you about 20 hours a week in your house to help teach him some things, because the thing with autism is there is no blood test, there is no scan, there is no MRI. It is observational is the only way you can diagnose somebody on the spectrum. So the problem becoming, if you don't know what to look for, you don't know when to start. The best thing that's happened for autistic individuals is early intervention, trying to get them some skills, some speech, some physical therapy. Try to build the pathways as they grow to learn how to adjust into the world they're going to live into. So we were lucky that call came through, but then I tried to call pediatric neurologist. There we go. A lot of big words in this stuff. And I kept getting told it's 1.5 years to get them evaluated. They do 2 a month. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I started calling anywhere and everywhere. I said, I'm an attorney. I'll fly anywhere. No. Called Arizona, called California, called Florida, called Texas. There was no way. My wife did a smarter approach. She started looking into, there was a study going on at Yale for early intervention. And she kept the chart of the time she would call. 11 o'clock this morning, nobody answered. 2 o'clock this day, nobody. She finally got through and she got him into the study, and that we call our golden ticket for him. Because when he was 2.5, he had 2 days of evaluation, which still is almost unheard of. An evaluation is usually an hour or 2. And Yale came in with a program he needed, we brought to the school. And what you learn as a family with an autistic member is, as the children start to grow, they start to differentiate. And the play dates stop, the doing with other kids, even birthday parties, and it gets a little isolated. So in 2007, I believe, Christopher was born in 2002, diagnosed in 2004 when he was almost 4 years old. We joined an autism speech walk because we wanted to see some other individuals, try to get out there and try to be heard, such as your group here, get together and not be alone having these conversations, but with other people. So they had a walk program, and there was a fundraising aspect. You figure any way you wish to do it. So my wife said, let's send to our Christmas list. And she wrote a story about our son Christopher and where he was in his development. Now, we had hoped to raise $1,000. You never know when you start an organization where it's going to go or what you're going to do, and we sure as heck didn't think we were starting an organization. Well, when the first check came back, it was $250. My wife cried by the mailbox. Still gets me. And people started sending so much. We had almost $10,000 come to our house. We couldn't imagine it. And so we said, this is something else. So we kept doing it. And we were basically using only our Christmas card list. And then I would send it out to other attorneys like Rick, and people would send checks in, and they'd start putting more onto it. And then as life goes, things snowball and they go into different directions. Christopher was developing. He has a very serious sound sensitivity. Elongated cheese, the national anthem, the birthday song. He'll run out of the room like he stuck a knife in his ear, which makes it a little difficult to be in places. But educationally, he was keeping up. And as he developed through, we were doing the walk program, and he kept growing, slowly getting to his spot. He was a runner when he was real little, scaled a 5-foot fence at 3 and got out of the backyard because he was very strong. He went down the laundry chute at about 3 also. Thank God there was a lot of laundry on the bottom. I had to drill that shut. He was an energetic little guy. But he kept developing slow and steady. And with a good school district in New Fairfield where we were helping him, he was doing well. So we kept doing our part. We had our Team Christopher. We even got shirts like you folks into here, and we do different ones each year. And then I remember a walk in Waterbury where they had some superheroes come. Seemed nice. Didn't think Christopher even noticed, but he had brought with him a map of where villains hide. Who knew where he was going? Because Christopher always had his own little things in his drawing. And these folks really liked him. And they made him an honorary member. Well, because of that, some people went to Comic-Cons, and they were celebrities and people dress up, and I didn't know anything about Comic-Cons. I thought, that's great, but not my thing. And they invited us to fundraise at a table. Well, once we started doing that, that community started adopting us, and we started raising, I think our biggest year was over $40,000 by being there doing these things. People would give us prizes and things to raffle off, and it had been amazing into place. And it was simply because those superheroes showed up after we tried to walk, and I bet you many of them don't even know what happened from there, because some of them came from far away. The ones that were more local and certainly go to different places. And as Christopher developed, he starts raising money, and everybody knows him as Big Man. And then we get a call from Autism Speaks. Does he want to start a Red Sox game? Okay, so we'll get the shirt. They had him yell, "Play ball." Now, the national anthem is one of Christopher's triggers and fears, so we had to talk to him about it. And Chris is a bit of a ham. He likes attention, but he wanted to know about the anthem. And the Red Sox personnel worked with us and made sure he would be off the field when that played. So for him to actually go to a ballpark and get on the field to yell, "Play ball," while there was the risk of that noise, showed some way just how far he came. And this was 2017, and by that point, he was getting towards the end of junior high school, towards high school, and every year my wife would fear, is this the year he plateaus? Is this the year that education becomes too hard for him? Because we started noticing some of the other families, it became more difficult as it got more complex. Luckily, Christopher just kept going and going and doing his thing. Well, a year later, Autism Speaks called again and asked if we wanted to go down to Washington. Unfortunately, if you hear of a missing autistic child who passed away, it's usually, you'll notice, because they drowned in a pool or they drowned somewhere. And the organization goes out and trains places that look for missing children, and police stations and other places to let them know. If you're missing an autistic child, you need to go and look towards water as one of the first places you go. Because for some reason, Chris has been a fish into it since he was little. I don't know if it's the feeling around him. I can't say. It's what he shares with us into place. Well, a year after we went to D.C., the Red Sox called him back to throw a pitch, which, by the way, he nailed. 2 months before, he had never thrown a pitch in his life. So I was surprised he said yes, but he likes a challenge. And so thank God that went well. He has graduated high school. And what's really interesting is in New Fairfield, they have a car parade with the kids to drive around. And Christopher has no interest in a driver's license. Mom and Dad take me around. We're trying to get him to use the HART bus. But we go around in that parade, and he's yelling about autism awareness. Had no idea. We goes to the walk, he has a good time, what have you. He was advocating for himself, and it was a proud moment. Today he's taking classes at Naugatuck through a transition program in his high school. He is taking English and two-dimensional drawing for 6 credits, and he's actually doing a B+ to an A in them, so we're very proud of him. He's going to look into a manufacturing program next year, and it's just been really great to see his journey and how hard he's worked at it. Because every day, not only has he had to work, he's had to listen for the sounds and watch for when people might do things, and the tension level to work past has just been so impressive in what he does. But because of him, and because of how inspiring when people meet him and when we've done our things, we've raised now over $340,000 since 2007. All because we mailed a letter out in since 2007, all because we mailed a letter out originally. So I commend all of you folks for doing what you're doing. You know, out of 152 Sundays, it's amazing to me, people coming out, rain, snow, and what have you. But you have no idea how many people have driven by or learned about this, and when they went home, maybe decided to try it in their communities. So I thank you all. I appreciate coming down here today, and I pass it back to Rick.
Woo! Thanks, I appreciate it. Thank you, Chris.